Hello everyone, we're today here in the Panzermuseum Munster and with Tobias, a former Leopard 2A6 gunner. And we will talk about War Thunder versus real life. Now, I should add here, minor disclosure, I was previously sponsored by War Thunder, so if you have a problem with that and think I'm not objective enough, better stop the video now, and I probably will be sponsored by them in the future, but I don't know yet. So, what in your opinion are the major mistakes or misconceptions that people might have from playing War Thunder versus real life? Because you both play, I think, quite a lot of War Thunder, and yeah, you also served in several Leopard 2s.
I mean, one interesting thing that many people don't know, actually a lot of tankers play War Thunder. It's quite common. We even had a clan in our battalion. And the thing is with War Thunder, it has some very realistic aspects, but some are very not realistic. I'm talking about realistic aspects, for example, ballistics. Ballistics is very good. Also the impact of mobility and penetration of the vehicles, that you can get the damage. But stuff that is not realistic is, for example, the times to repair a vehicle. Obviously, because of the gameplay aspect, you can't wait like 20 minutes to repair a track. But one thing is that many people tend to get like the information from these games, or from getting a wrong view about conflicts from these games, because these games are only vehicle combat. And you have in the real conflict way more scenarios that you can not see in the game.
So tanks would be more or less the exception in a war to see, probably.
Yes, but also for you inside the tank, you are. I mean, you have big threats as mines, for example. You can drive over a mine and get disabled. That's not the thing there. Stationary ATGMs, and I'm talking not about a vehicle, but talking about like a tow missile launcher system somewhere that can be mounted in a house or on a rooftop of a house. That's not a thing there. And also the size of the conflict. I mean, you have like these War Thunder maps that are like maybe 3 by 3 kilometers, or sometimes more, sometimes less. But you know that in this area is the enemy, while in real life you're traveling to the conflict zone and you don't know when to expect an enemy. It can be like you don't see anyone in the next hour, but suddenly it can come. And one also big difference is in real life there's no matchmaking.
Yeah.
And it can happen that when you drive with a platoon that you meet a complete company in a situation. And that's not a thing in War Thunder, that you meet a complete company because you were sent as a platoon to reconnaissance.
Well, I mean, it can happen when everyone goes to A except you're the only one you go to B, and the other team does the other thing.
And one thing with War Thunder also many people don't think about is the turret has no real collision file. You can rotate the turret everywhere, even if there's like a building in the way. I mean, maybe you know this movie Kelly Heroes with the tiger that can't rotate the turret because it's standing in this narrow alley. That's a similar thing, but also a major thing here in Europe is the forest. Because when you look at the Leopard 2A6, it has a very long gun, and you have to be carefully not to hit trees with it. And the same goes with the overhang of the turret. Many tanks have a long overhang, so when they rotate the turret, they will go also to the other side. And you have to look there not to hit the tree. And I can tell you, a big oak will win against the tank. Yeah,
I mean, it's specifically mentioned in a experience report for Stalingrad, that they mentioned that the short-barreled Panzer IV is actually quite useful in combat in the city, because the short barrel on the Panzer IV, it's hard to damage it. It's still possible, but compared with the long-barreled gun that was rather new at that point as well, so they were less used to it, makes a difference. So it actually showed up in real experience reports. And I think there's also pictures, I think, of a T-34 that rammed in with the gun into a tree or something. I mean, the funniest thing I saw was, I think it was a BMP or something like this that ran into a tree with its tracks, and the tree won, and the tracks were just, or the road wheels cut off.
Even with when you rotate the gun and you hit the tree, it can damage the gun, and that's a big problem.
Also, I suspect the electronics and everything inside or nearby the sensors can also be damaged.
Yeah, and that's one point. And also one point of the combat itself is normally you expect the majority of your targets to be soft. That's the thing. If you see like the loading orders for several other tanks like T-55s, T-54s and stuff like this. They are also mainly counting on high explosive rounds, because the most targets you will face are soft targets, either for infantry support or lightly or not armored at all vehicles, because the number of MBTs is not that high compared to all other kind of vehicles. And you won't face only IFVs and MBTs like in War Thunder. You have only these IFVs and MBTs. I mean, okay, sometimes AA vehicles, but you won't face like trucks transporting stuff. You won't face like small reconnaissance vehicles, like for example German Fennec. You won't face them, and therefore everyone is just playing with APFSDs, and
yeah,
that's also one big thing.
And I assume also that the situational awareness and also the vision situation is quite different to in real life, right?
Yeah, of course, because I mean, you have in War Thunder this simulator mode where you have like the camera stripped on the turret that comes very close to like looking out of the hatch, but with the difference when you look out of the hatch you can hit by a machine gun, for example. And in real life the situational awareness inside the vehicle is very small. And also there's one thing, in real life you are like 4 people inside the tanks. In certain tanks you are 3 people, and in War Thunder you're alone, and you can spot and you can engage yourself. And for example, even the loader has a periscope, and it can happen that the loader spots something and he has to tell the gunner or the commander, hey, on 10 o'clock there's a tank, and then they look over there. And that's not a thing in War Thunder because you see it yourself, and there's no like delay inside, there's no communication inside your vehicle.
No misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Except your hand coordination, hand-eye coordination breaks sometimes.
Yeah, and also one thing is a tank never fights on its own. It's always a part of a military structure, for example, a platoon, a company, or a half platoon as the smallest sized element. And in War Thunder it's more like everyone is playing for himself. And there's no like this system that vehicles are covering each other all the time. And those are the difference. So I see mainly the difference between War Thunder reality is like the terms of usage, how it's done. But what's quite interesting, what many people like, is like the technical aspects of like the damage model of the vehicles, the penetration system that you can see, like the camera, how the APFSDs is going in, or how the heat is working, the systems like with ERA, explosive reactive armor, how it works, that those things are modeled. For example, if you go with the other tank game, it's more primitive compared to it. And those are like the reasons why many people actually play it, especially also tankers. And it's a game, it's not a simulation. People who want to have a simulation are playing Steel Beasts.
Yeah, I played once with an Australian cavalry officer, or a former cavalry officer. I played War Thunder, and it was quite interesting because just the coordination was going on. He was like, he was not telling me where the enemy tank was. He said, "Watch the fall of my shot." And the first time I heard it was, "What are you talking about?" And he was marking basically the enemy position with his machine gun. Mm. And then I assume, so when you guys played together with your real life unit, that I assume your coordination in this game was really good, and you probably were quite effective.
I mean, it's you're doing a lot more that like the casual players are not doing. For example, like leaving your position after you fired once, while many people tend to like stay in their position and obviously getting them killed. And many other things, like playing together, that you are like using techniques that you learned, like overwatching each other.
So to move and to overwatch.
But also like when you yourself engage a vehicle and you don't manage to like destroy it, that your body will fire immediately the second shot to give it one, to don't give the enemy a reaction time. That's why you have always at least 2 tanks working together, so when one tank fails to destroy a target, that the second one already can.
So a squad in War Thunder is at most 4 tanks, right?
I think yes, yeah.
So what was the platoon size of the Bundeswehr? Was it?
I mean, at the beginning it was 5, then it was currently it's 4.
Okay, it's 4, because for the Russians I think it's 3.
Yeah, it's 3 with the Russians.
Because and I know in the Wehrmacht it was 5 and also 4. For instance, for the Tiger it was 4, and so basically ideally you have like a half platoon. That's like in Overwatch, I think, at least for the Wehrmacht, from what I remember, was like you have like 2 tanks that watch and 2 that move forward, and then the other 2 take position and watch, and the other move forward. So if you see this in War Thunder generally, because we tried it a few times, so because sometimes you move forward in War Thunder, especially when you not have a stabilized gun like in World War II, and then an enemy shoots at you, you have to stop and the gun adapts, but if you have 2 buddies watching you, they can immediately return fire.
I mean, the thing is with these platoon sizes you're talking about is like, that's the theory. I mean, you have often vehicles, even without combat influence, that they can't catch up because they have like malfunctions and stuff like this, or you have combat losses. So you have also to expect that your platoon has only 3 tanks, or you're down to a half platoon of 2 tanks, and that's always something that can happen. So in the perfect world, you have always 4.
Yeah. Of course, that's the ideal on the manual stuff. Yeah, but I assume if you start out with 3, it's more complicated to begin with.
I mean, if you think about mainly, you're talking about like modern Soviet tanks, like in the doctrine, also that are present in the game, and they have all stabilized guns, and there's also a big difference between the doctrines, I think, of Russian. I mean, I'm used to like how NATO is doing it, and I'm also playing mostly like German tanks, Leopards, but also Abrams, and adapting my knowledge on that, and you get used to it. I mean, I also play, I have to say, Steel Beast, and there you're doing even more stuff that you learned. But
are there mines in Steel Beast? What? Are there mines in Steel Beast?
Yes. Okay. And there are even like loitering ammunitions now. So it's even to the current conflict adapted. Even current vehicles like T-72B3 is quite nice. But you don't have to forget, I'm also a gamer, and I'm also doing like meta things, because some stuff that is not realistic, that I know that is not realistic, but I'm doing anyway because...
Yeah, I assume you don't take an ammo loadout with mostly HE ammunition into a War Thunder match.
Yeah, but like stuff like only using 15 rounds. Don't using the hull ammo at all.
Yeah.
So you don't blow it easy. And the combat in War Thunder takes time far less than like driving around the whole day. And often 15 rounds are enough.
But in real life, you might make the decision too if you know you have only a minor engagement or something?
Normally, I mean, you don't know what to expect. Yeah, something can happen, like, you don't get replaced by another unit, you have to stay in your position.
It reminds me a bit of Black Hawk Down, when in the initial, when they say, yeah, he removes the back armor plate. I'm not expecting to be shot in the back.
Yeah.
I don't take the extra ammunition here because we will be back in 20 minutes or something, yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing is, in 15 minutes it's over.
Yeah.
In War Thunder. That's
definitely. And you can also, I think, at some points you can actually rearm.
At the cap points you can rearm. At the cap
points as well, yeah. Okay, anything else to add?
So far not.
Okay, perfect. Then thank you, Tobias. Thank you to the Panzermuseum Munster for inviting us. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.